trying to see how long it's going to take them to make 2 hamburgers. So I'm in the medical district right here, and you get kind of lost because these roads kind of mesh together, and I have no idea where this person's trying to pick up their Whataburger at all right now. This is how you do it. I'm facing south right here. Behind me is north. You remember your numbers even and odd on an address. An address will have, it'll end in even or it'll end in odd number, okay? So it's even number or odd number. The even numbers, this is very difficult to understand, but the even numbers are going to be on this side of the road. The reason why is it faces north, or it can face west. I remember it like this. Alfred Hitchcock, North by Northwest. A lot of his characters get even. They kind of do. I think of Anthony Perkins and Psycho. Doesn't exactly get even, but he tries to. Anyway, that's how I remember it. And also, a lot of his shots are even. He's not real wobbly like that. So Alfred Hitchcock, North by Northwest, even. The other way would be south, which would be odd. I remember that by Southwest because a lot of oddballs go to South by Southwest to watch movies and, music. Because South by Southwest is a venue that you go to watch movies, and it's a festival. So oddballs go to South by Southwest. That would be odd. So this would be the odd number, and that'd be even. That's kind of a mnemonic. Story mnemonic is what I call it. I do story mnemonics to remember things. So it's helped me. I just did this the other night to remember it. What I said was actually going to mess you up. North by Northwest is even. That's going to be the even side of the road. Okay? North by Northwest is even. I remember that because Alfred Hitchcock and his characters get even. They don't really, but that's how I say it. So that way I know that if the road ends, let's say, if the address is 1202, then that would be an even address because it ends in 2. That's an even number. North by Northwest. Okay? It'd be on the north side of the street or be on the west side. They always go in even. South by Southeast is an oddball thing because I think of Florida. Florida is south by southeast on the map. And they're all oddballs in Florida. That's a better way to remember it. The South by Southwest thing, don't worry about that because it'll mess you up because you got to remember that North by Northwest is even. South by Southeast is going to be odd. So south side of the street will be odd. The southeast side will be odd. Anyway. My history, I did audition to be kind of like a Patch Adams clown for children, Cook's Children. Back in the day, they would pay like $40 an hour. But you go in as a clown and you see kids that are sick, and part of me is kind of happy that I didn't get the job, even though I was called back. I was auditioned twice, and it went to more docile actors and stuff that are more like psychologists and stuff, not like real actors. Because we do the real clowning stuff, and sometimes that can kind of scare the kids, but we had to do weird things, like we pretended like we were animals, and I think I was too realistic or something. I don't know the reason why. But it makes you kind of grateful for your life when you see these kids that are, I don't even really want to talk about it, but I auditioned. I was brought in a second time. This is a long time ago. This is back in my first marriage. I was probably maybe close to 30. And they're probably looking for more like psychologists. And they come in as like clowns to make the kids laugh. Or they dress up like characters and stuff. Those guys usually have a psychology degree. Now this is haunted right over here. This is Thistle Hill. It's supposed to be haunted. And it is in Fort Worth. I do want to visit it. I'll have to talk to Linda. But it is supposed to be haunted. They did do a haunted house there when I was younger, when I was about 12 or so, or 13. We went through it. It was one of the scariest haunted houses ever. But it is rumored that this is Thistle Hill, and it is Thistle Hill, but it is haunted. It's a historic house. I haven't seen any haunted activity, but it's supposed to be haunted. You can see the sign. It's been there since 1904. Over that way. There's one of the signs right there. Yeah, wait. Can't really see right there because the freaking blinding sun. All right, so we're going 13 miles away to pick up something. I don't know what it is. Kind of reminds me of Postmates a little bit. Pulling me out, way out there. They have me going 13 miles to pick up some Chicken Express. I guess it's early in the dinner rush, but it's New Year's Eve, so I guess they're wanting chicken for New Year's Eve. According to Chicken Express holiday hours, they're open New Year's Eve till 8 o'clock and New Year's Day till 10 p.m. So they'll be open all day New Year's Day. Christmas Day they're closed though, but they are open on Christmas Eve. But it looks like New Year's Day, they'll go from 11 a.m. all the way to 10 p.m. Pretty much a normal day. Show these little movies on YouTube, and I saw a good one called Arizona. Seth Rogen's in it, but they cut him from the credit roll. So he's on it uncredited, but he gets killed at the very beginning because he plays this kind of butthole real estate landlord kind of guy. And so Kenny Powers, Danny McBride, it's not Kenny Powers, but it's Danny McBride, ends up killing him, and then it's witnessed by one of the helpers at the real estate agency, and then he has to kidnap her, and it goes in a snowball, turns into like a horror film almost. It's actually pretty good. So what makes Arizona with Danny McBride work, Danny McBride produced it, starred in it. It's a dark role. It's not all funny. It's actually quite disturbing. Very much like in the same kind of feel Disturbia is, if you've seen that movie. There's a Michael Keaton movie, but I can't think of the name right now. Southern Heights or something like that. But it's about a landlord and a tenant. But that one's a serious thriller. It's a thriller. It's scary at times. It's not like frightening, but scary. But it's creepy, like American Psycho kind of creepy. But it shows his chops as an actor. He's not doing like the slapstick kind of redneck Kenny Powers comedy as much, but he is playing this affluent guy that's kind of complacent and loses it, you know, and he goes to confront his landlord or his real estate agent that sold him the house. Look at these people are so selfish, man. And pushes it. Yeah, I know. You got to go get your beer and all that stuff. And anyway, pushes him, and Seth Rogen's character, I think his name is Gary or something like that. I can't remember. Think of his name right now. It shows it on the Internet Movie Database. It shows the Seth Rogen character, but it's not in the credit roll. And I always thought, well, why not? You know, he played a cameo. Anyway, Seth Rogen goes flying off the side of this balcony and then smashes his head and dies. And he looks around, and then he sees his secretary, you know, the real estate, Seth Rogen's character's secretary, witnessing it all. So that's where it starts. He's like, oh crap, what am I going to do? So he kidnaps her. It becomes like a kidnap story. Takes her back to his place and gives her a viewing of his place. He's kind of like he's almost like a killer that you sympathize with, you know, in a strange way, in a real weird way, because you shouldn't. You should hate him. But he's got like this kind of charisma. Like, you do the same thing, that kind of thing, you know. It's scary because, you know, at times he has a gun and stuff. But it makes a lot of good points about society, and it actually brings up a lot of important subjects that I don't really want to talk about right now. But, I mean, involving real estate and people and law. There's like one cop in town. They're in Arizona. So there's also another movie that I can compare it to a little bit. Samuel Jackson did it, where there's a fire and he's like a neighbor and he's a cop or something like that. It kind of has that kind of feel, but it's more of a comedy. It's not as serious as the Samuel L. Jackson one. But Arizona actually is it's actually entertaining. I saw 2 movies last night because I was kind of bored. The first movie I saw was, I believe it's called T-34. It's a tank movie about Russian tanks in the 1940s fighting the Nazis and the Nazi tanks, the Panzers. And that one I thought, it's very Russian. It's kind of epic. Some parts of it, I have some critical aspects because it's a war film, and I really like war films. But I watched that, and I was like, that was a good, Russian tank film that has, all these action-packed sequences like Fury, like Brad Pitt's Fury, which was a tank movie that was better. But I was like, this is kind of like Fury, And then it switched over, and all of a sudden, it started playing Arizona, or it offered Arizona or whatever. So I was like, what is this? Is this a Kenny Powers or something? And it was Danny McBride, and I thought that was actually better. And I was blown away. It's actually really good. It's a tight little film. But when I watched the credit roll, I was like, well, where's Seth Rogen? Because he's not in the credit roll. It's really weird. This light has no direction. I have no idea. Thank you. Like this Copenhagen and Coca-Cola is going more than 10 miles away. I don't even know what the base pay is. Pretty much, you have to count on the tip on this one. I'm getting a lot of pop-down roadie stuff. Maybe try roadie, but I usually just shoot for about 7. Because depending on the average, I think last night's average was close to mid-13s, so closer to 14, but maybe 13 per order. It'd be nice if they did a standard $15 per order no matter what, but they can change the average per order on the runner app. So your runner average can be like 13 a delivery, or it can be an average of whatever. But anyway, if you do 7, then you're safe. To say if it's at a decent average, then you can make, I don't know, whatever 7 times that average would be. If it was $20 average, that'd be great, But it is a holiday, so sometimes they do holiday stuff. So I'll have to see, But I'm gonna shoot for 7, and then I'll tell you tomorrow. I can tell you that yesterday I did 7, and I made almost $90. So it was close to $90 yesterday. But you don't really count that day as a holiday, really, because yesterday was the 30th. So today is December 31, 2022. So it's Christmas Eve. So I'm hoping there's holiday pay. Everyone else is getting holiday pay. So, but anyway, we'll have to see, and I'll tell you tomorrow. So yesterday, I think I made close to $90. So I did 7 of them. So we'll see how many 7 runners are. So it's an incorrect address, incorrect. There's English majors that are watching this. I have to speak clearly. It's an incorrect address. So what that means is that they put an S for South Main, which leads you here to this office, which is wrong. So what I have to do is go down the other address, or I have to pull up the other address that does not have an S on it. So the South Main, which is where I'm at, this is South Main. This area right here is South Main, is incorrect. And that's because of Waze, not because of the app. The app does not show the S on it. So when it goes through on Waze, they interpret it and put an S on there. I don't know why. It's printed wrong, or it's not printed wrong. It's Waze does not read. They don't work well with Waze. So they're gonna have to get in touch with Waze, probably because it's a Texas company, is what I'm assuming. And Texas has a bad rap about, you know, about being liberal or whatever. These are kind of liberal jobs, these remote work or something. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. But I figured it out. It's a mile from this location. Like it's a downtown drop, which could be a better tip. So it brought me into downtown, because see what happens with the Runner app. Okay, it doesn't connect very well with Waze. So what that means is that it's not going to always interpret that you're on south, or you know, the letter S represents south. Okay. So on the actual address, if you look on the actual address that's assigned to, there is no S in the address, okay? That south, which is an S, gives you the option, okay? It's hard, it's very, very difficult to explain. Meaning that it'll give you more than one option to choose from. So let's say if the address is 100 Main, okay? It'll give the option of 100 S Main or 100 Main. And if you don't sit there and look at it and put on your reading glasses and look at it and you hit it, it'll take you to the wrong address because it's giving you that option. So it does not interpretate the app's address. You have to sit there and interpret. You have to interpretate the app's address. You shouldn't have to do that. I'm not used to doing it, really. This is the only app the Runner app is the only app that really does that. Okay, so this is what the point is. I'm going to Maine, which is right up here. Not the state of Maine. I'm only going to return there when I'm a millionaire. I'm talking about Main Street, okay? I'm going to Main Street, not South Main Street, which is where I was. So the app says Main Street. That's the drop-off. That's the official, legit drop-off point for this Copenhagen and these Coca-Colas. This guy ordered some Coca-Cola from a Circle K and some Copenhagen about 13 miles away. On his request for the drop-off is requested as like whatever Main Street, okay? The app read it as South Main. And this is not the first time it's done this. It's like the third time it's done this. South Main is on the other side of town. But it gives you the option to go to Main Street, not necessarily south. What you're going to do as a driver is you're going to choose the first option at the top, which is what I did, because you figured it would be able to read that. It would interpret it. But that's the problem with artificial intelligence, is interpretation. That's probably the major problem. I mean, that's what Kubrick was writing about in 2001. It was all about interpretation. I don't know what they call it. It was HAL. It was called HAL. It was a computer device that worked with a character named David. Dave, you know, all that stuff. Dave, you don't want to do that. Well, the computer was not interpreting correctly. So it did not know how to interpretate. It's kind of a hard word to say, interpretate. Interpretation. In this case, that's exactly what it's doing. It's interpreting South Main, and it's not South Main. So the computer has a problem. I have to go through it and go, wait a minute, there's no S in the address. It's not South Main. So I have to go back and I have to plug in, or I have to choose the right address. And if you have an app that's giving you many options, then you have to stop, look at those options, and you have to compare which one. In most of the time, like people like that. That's 1 second. Look where he's going. Look where the guy's going. He's going right into traffic. Okay. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to have to be able to do that, but it's in one of these buildings right here. Looks like they still have the Christmas tree up right now. So in a situation like this, when you're dealing with like a holiday, you want to drop it off at the attendant and check the attendant's ID. Then the attendant would have to ID them to drop it off. I've done it. I used to do it all the time with Postmates. So what you do is you go up to the front counter. How you doing? Pedestrian here. How you doing? You go up to the front counter, and you just basically ask if the attendant is over 21 and check their ID, because now they're in possession of the tobacco or alcohol. In this case, it's just tobacco. But as long as the attendant is of age, then they're responsible for that item. So if they give it to someone that's younger, then they're responsible. And attendants do that, like clerks and things like that, because you're not gonna, these people are out walking the streets for New Year's, they're not gonna be there. But if you give it to the attendant and you check the attendant's ID, then that's considered a drop-off. I used to do it for Postmates. I checked a guy's passport doing that one time. You can see that was because it gave me the option to choose to go 644 miles. And that's what the Runner app fails to do. So I'll try to show this too in the vlog. My vlogs are very intensive. They're almost like cinematic masterpieces, but I'm part of the anti-cinematic movement because it's just vlogging. I don't care what the critic thinks. But I'm gonna try to show you, if I can at least tell you that was having me going to Michigan. I'm in Texas right now. It was having me go to Michigan or Missouri. It's weird because I was thinking about Brad Pitt and that movie Seven. Check this out. What I was talking about. And I took a screenshot of what the options that they gave you. There were 3 options to go to West 7th Street in Missouri. I don't know the city because it usually doesn't give the city. Then it had 2 options of going to West 7th in Michigan. So when I looked down at my map, which I showed you earlier, it was having me going 644 miles. They don't have a safeguard for that. And so I've lost 11 miles. Because I finally looked down and realized that there was no safeguard on it. Meaning nothing's really foolproof per se, but it doesn't give you any of the right options. And I screenshotted it. So it is screenshot. So I have a screenshot. I don't know if I'll show it though, because my vlogs get so extensive that I try not to do inserts. So I'm telling you that you have to check it, because I just dropped that one off. That was off of South Main when I was making, that complaint about the South Main error. And then I went to Main Street and dropped it off at the Marriott. Okay, that's where I was talking about leaving it with the attendant that's over 18 or over 21. I think over 21. And in this case, the drop-off is actually way off. No, I mean, I found it though. I found it because I had to Google it. So for now on, I have a new rule for tonight. Every order that I get, I'm going to run it through Google search and make sure that that address is in a reasonable way, or that address is in a reasonable distance. Okay, see how I talk? So that the address is reasonable in the way it's, you know, the address is reasonable in its distance from the last drop off to the new pickup. Okay, 644 miles is not reasonable. Now, it doesn't matter because there is no option to choose on that at all. So when I screenshot it, it says Missouri, 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 Michigan, and Michigan. Okay? And it does not give a West 7th and Fort Worth. Why would the app not catch that, especially Waze, if I'm working for a delivery service that I call the runner app? That's not necessarily always everyone's favorite. You know, if you're talking about favorite stuff. Because they just now got me to go 11 miles out of the way until I looked down and realized that there's no way I'm picking this up out of Arlington. The real pickup was 7 miles away. So what you want to do is keep an eye out on your miles right here. See how this says mileage? And when you put it in and it's more than, if it's more than 8 miles, then check it. Go through Google search. Okay? You want to go through Google search because you'll save gas in doing that. So this is like some Latino restaurant, right? And it has a name on it. You want to run that through your Google search engine, and when it picks up, then you want to press on it through Google and follow that way. Or you'll do this. You'll go 10 miles out of the way. It was wanting me to go 644 miles out of the way. And none of the options were Texas options. They were all outside of the state. That's how stupid the runner app is at times. It's very, very stupid. Now, none of the other apps can do that, especially an outside app. Like Grubhub cannot treat their drivers that way in Texas. The reason why is Grubhub is initiated out of Chicago. They're a Chicago company. So if you're going to work for them, they're going to treat you with respect because they can be closed down for treating Texas workers like crap. But a Texas app like the Runner app can be like, they can make errors on Waze and they don't have to worry about it. Because what, are they going to be sued by a poor delivery driver out of Texas? Let me tell you something. They better fix the problem, is what they better do, because they're messing with people's lives and they're not going to get away with it. Grubhub would never get away with it. Neither would DoorDash, neither would Uber Eats, neither would, what's the other one? Postmates would never, well, Postmates is wild. They're just wild. But what I'm trying to say is that they would never get away with it. They'd get in trouble. They'd get in legal trouble. But because it's a Texas app and I'm a Texas and I'm a native Texan, does not mean that they can treat me like crap like that. So fix the problem, Runner.